Okay, so getting back into our coverage over X-Men comics, as we work our way up to X-Men Inferno, we do pick up with New Mutants number 62 and 64. Now, this was a two-part story arc that really did focus more on how was the team doing after Fall of the Mutants. Now remember, Fall of the Mutants was an X-Men event, but not a crossover, meaning that yes, you did have all three X-Men team go through Fall of the Mutants, but they never did cross over. They all had to deal with their own set of problems. And when it came to the New Mutants, they got hit the worst in the entire event because they lost two team members. The first would be Magma. Now, she just left the school completely. She went over to Emma Frost school. Now, when it comes to Cipher, he was killed off at the very end of Fall of the Mutants. And so our young heroes are still trying to deal with the idea of losing not just one, but two team members. But the idea that one of them died because they were being reckless. And so getting into the opening page of New Mutants number 62, we do pick up with our young heroes getting a letter from Magma. Now, like I said just a moment ago, Magma had left the school and went to go join Emma Frost's school and became a Hellion. And that's the name that Frost gives her students. But now our young heroes are getting a letter from Magma that is saying that she is about to go back home to her home country, Nova Roma. Now, I am going to explain what Nova Roma is like down the road, but for our young heroes, they're very confused because she just left the school to go over to Emma Frost school, and now she's leaving that school to go back home to Nova Roma. And on top of that, apparently she's going to bring Empath as well. We then jump over to Emma Frost school, and when we do, we pick up with Magma in a current training session with her new team, the Hellions. Now, the reason why they're going through this training is to one, see how her powers work, but two, how strong she truly is. Now, here's the thing, because our young heroes, the New Mutants, just got a letter that made it seem like Magma was leaving the school and going back home to Nova Roma. But here she is right now in a training session with her new team. Now, there is one character I do want to focus on, and that would be Empath. And the reason why, because Empath has the ability to sense what other people are feeling, but he also has the ability to make you feel a certain kind of way. So he can make you feel happy, sad, mad. It's all up to him. Now, here's the thing, because in the middle of the training session, you have his team tell him to use his powers to calm down Magma so that they will be able to win the training session, which he does. Except he also uses powers on Terret. And the reason why, because Terret in the entire session was mocking him for having a crush on Magma. And that's the big thing about this chapter of this video, because Magma and Empath, they have a crush on one another, but they're unable to actually establish a relationship because of their past of being enemies. Either way, you have Magma get very upset with Empath for using his powers on one of his fellow teammates because she was just mocking him. But then Emma Frost appears. Now, she does inform Magma that she had just received a letter from her father to inform Magma that it's time for her to come back home to Nova Roma. Now, this is the second time that Magma had received a letter from her father. And like the last one, it's telling her it's time for you to come back home to get married to a man that I had chosen for you. Now, the last time, Magma ignored the last message, but now with two, she feels like she has no choice but to go ahead and go back home and marry the man that her father had chosen. Now, as soon as Magma walks away, you then have Emma Frost pull Empath to the side to tell him to go with Magma back to Nova Roma. And the reason why? Because the Hellfire Club realized that Nova Roma has a lot of great resources that they could use for their organization, but they need her father on their side. And that is where Empath comes in, to hopefully use his abilities to control Magma's father. And so you have Empath inform Magma that he's going with her. Now he does tell her a complete lie by saying, listen, I'm going with you to hopefully talk to your father to convince your father to let you stay here with us. Now in reality, the main reason why he is going because Emma Frost told him to go. But at the same time, he still has feelings for Magma. And so he's kind of conflicted on the real reason on why he should go. Because yes, he'll be helping out Emma Frost, but at the same time, it will possibly help him to build a relationship with the woman that he has a crush on. Now I want to talk about Nova Roma, the home country for Magma, because it's very interesting when it comes to the other countries in the world of Marvel Comics. See, Nova Roma is kind of like Wakanda, a made-up country that's right in the middle of the Amazon forest in South America. That's the only thing similar to Wakanda. Now when it comes to Nova Roma, well, it was founded right after ancient Rome. And matter of fact, the country is still being run in a way like it is ancient Rome, still being governed like it is ancient Rome. And so when it came to Magma wanting to leave her country with the New Mutants, not just because she wanted to learn how to control her newfound powers, she also wanted to discover the world around her country. And so that is why she's having a hard time going back to Nova Roma, because it's completely different there. Yes, it's her home, but she was loving the idea of living in the world, the new world around her. But the rest of this chapter is really more of our two young heroes having no choice but to work together as they fight their way through the Amazon rainforest, because on their way over to her country, their plane crashed down and burned up. So unfortunately, they have to walk the rest of the way. Now for Magma, she's used to the Amazon rainforest. She was raised in this area. She knows about the different kinds of animals. But when it comes to Empath, somebody who has never really had a chance to live in a forest like this, he has no choice but to rely on her. And matter of fact, there are moments where she has no choice but to rely on him so that they'll be able to work together and make it to her country. Now, while they are traveling, it also gives Magma the ability to kind of have a better understanding on how Empath truly is like. Because again, one of his abilities is to know what other people are feeling. But here's the thing, because yes, he can tell that you are sad, but he has no idea why you are sad. He can tell that you are mad, but he has no idea why you are mad. And so a lot of times when he's around other people, he can tell they're sad, mad, angry, happy, whatever, but unfortunately, he cannot tell why they feel that way. And a lot of times it really bothers him a lot. And so it's Magma realizing that Empath has a power that could be great, but at the same time, it could also suck. But either way, you did have our two young heroes being able to reach Nova Roma. And when they do, they are confronted by her father, and we're left to wonder what could possibly happen to them. But then we jump into New Mutants number 64, where we do pick up with Wolfbane in the Danger Room. Now, the reason why she is currently in the Danger Room is trying to relive the moment when Cipher was shot and killed, because she does feel responsible for his death, because he went out of his way to save her life and he got shot and killed. And so you have her in the Danger Room trying to relive that moment, but to have a better outcome where she was able to save Cypher's life. But the problem is she's doing all of this work to save an illusion, because no matter what, Cipher is still dead. And that is when you have Sunspot come in and say, you have to stop. Like, yes, we all understand that you feel like you're at fault for his death, but doing all this, torturing yourself over and over again, is not going to bring him back. Cipher is dead. But then we have to shift our focus over to Magic. Now, around this time, Magic is not just dealing with the death of Cypher, she's also dealing with the death of Colossus, or the supposed death of Colossus. Because remember, when it came to Fall of the Mutants, the X-Men had told the world that they were going to give up their lives to stop Adversary, which they did. But at the end of that storyline, Lady Roma brought them back to life, but the world has no idea that the X-Men are alive. And so for Magic here, the only thing she keeps seeing over and over again on TV is the messages that were left behind by the X-Men before they had supposedly died. And so she believes that Colossus is dead. And so at his supposed death and also Cypher's death, she's having a hard time. But at the same time, she's losing control of her dark child side, the evil version of herself. And so you have Cannonball trying his best to calm her down, but unfortunately, she's just too full of rage right now to be calmed down. But now we have to focus on Warlock, because Warlock is going to have a hard time understanding the concept of death, because he is a techno-organic being. And so for him, he's wondering, is Doug really gone, or is there a possibility that Doug can come back to life? For example, you have him and Danny Moonstar watching a movie about zombies, and those people came back to life as zombies. And he's wondering, will Doug come back to life as a zombie as well? But Danny has to tell Warlock it doesn't work like that, because that's a movie. Doug is dead. Movies are not real. And if he did come back to life, you would hate the idea of seeing your friend being a zombie. And so Warlock kind of gets what she's saying, but still, he does not have the full understanding of the concept of death. But now it's time for the funeral of Cypher. And this is so rough for our heroes for so many different reasons. For example, Magneto, when he discovered that Cypher was killed off, he was so upset with the rest of his students, he told them, you are not allowed to leave the school at all. You are not allowed to use your powers without my permission. And then on top of that, he had to lie to the parents of Cypher about what happened to their son, because he could not tell them, oh, your son was killed off by some madman who was trying to create human-animal hybrids. Instead, he had to tell them, we were camping and a random hunter who was trying to kill a deer or whatever shot your son on accident. I'm sorry, your son is dead. It's a bull story, but he has no choice but to tell them that story. And so for Magneto, he tells kids, we have to go in there and make them believe that was the actual true story. Now, once our heroes go inside, they cannot sit through the entire funeral, especially when they see the wax body of Cypher in the coffin. Now, it's really hard on Rain Sinclair, but also on Warlock, because again, Warlock does not fully understand the concept of death, especially when they bring up heaven, the idea of rebirth, but being brought back to life in heaven. And so for Warlock, he's all like, wait a second, I was told earlier that if someone comes back to life, they're a zombie, that's a bad thing. But now you're telling me if they go to heaven, it's a rebirth, then that's a good thing? I'm confused. But also for Warlock, he believes there's a possibility that Cypher might come back to life, or he could help bring Cypher back to life, back onto his feet. Because again, he does not understand the full concept of death, to the point where later on that day, he goes back to the body of Cypher. He's all like, listen, Cypher, I know there's a possibility that you can come back to life. And so my goal is to kind of push you to want to come back to life. And so you have Warlock use his ability to reanimate the body of Cypher, basically making him a zombie, to have him walk around and see, quotation marks, the people that he loves who are going to miss him. So for example, you have Warlock take the body of Cypher over to Cypher's parents' house, and his mom's in his room just trying to relax and deal with the idea that she lost her son, to only look outside the window and see her dead son sitting there looking at her. And of course, she freaks out, screaming and yelling and kind of like, what in the world is going on? But Warlock, he doesn't stop there. You then have Warlock take the body of Cypher over to the X Mansion, where of course you have the rest of the team begin to freak out when they see the dead body of Cypher just walking around thanks to Warlock. Now you do have Warlock reveal that it was him who had brought the body of Cypher back to the mansion, but they tell Warlock, you can't do that. One, you stole a body from a funeral home, and two, you're right now possessing someone's dead body and parading around the city like the possibility that it's cool or it could bring him back to life, and that's not okay at all. Cypher is dead. He is gone. You have to understand the full concept of death. But again, it's hard for Warlock to kind of understand that because he's a techno-organic being. Now with him doing this, it does help out Wolfbane because she had the hardest time letting go. But seeing Cypher's dead body being paraded around like this, it helped her realize that he is gone, that she has to move on with her life. And so you have the New Mutants tell Warlock, hey, we gotta take the body back, which they do, but the team realize they have to move on. Now the final part of this chapter is really more of Magic watching TV with the rest of her team, and they keep watching what happened to the X-Men at the tail end of Fall of the Mutants for the X-Men, how they had to supposedly give up their lives to stop the adversary. But she realized that Forge is at fault for that because the adversary was Forge's enemy. If Forge had done his job, the adversary would have never came back into Earth's reality, and possibly the X-Men would not have been killed off. Now we already know the X-Men are alive, but like I said earlier, the rest of the world believes that the X-Men are dead. And so because you have the world believing that, you have Magic very upset with Forge by saying it's his fault it happened. If only he did his job and stopped the adversary long ago, the X-Men would still be alive. My brother would still be alive. And that leads into the next story arc where she goes after Forge. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.